public works, I got a lot of advice on public works because I used to be representing PWD workers like Mr. Daniel Paul, Edmund Ford, and other people on the coast that worked in public works. Now, we had a sugar strike, and the governor, after charging me with responsibility for the whole public works department, took the PWD trucks and filled them with strike breakers to go and break the strike. And that is how this charge came up from me. Confounded nonsense. Well, they came in and they suspended the constitution, dismissed the government. They said we were trying to turn Guyana into a communist state subordinate to Moscow.
Okay.
They never provided any proof of anything like that. It was totally false. But I was one of the people they used as a scapegoat. They arrested 5 of us in Blairmont Market because we were giving out a handbill calling for non-cooperation with the British, as happens in every colonial country. And they arrested us, took us into Blairmont Police Station. And while lying down on the floor in Blairmont Police Station, I hear a name coming over the radio on the BBC saying that we were we were arrested.
Oh boy.
And then when the people in Blairmont picketed and they did a lot of things, you know, we were there. That was a Saturday afternoon. The Sunday evening, they took us over to New Amsterdam prison, New Amsterdam police headquarters. They had us in the cells until Tuesday morning. They wake us up about 2 o'clock and march us down a corridor at the police station, one after the other. For what? There was a white police officer there serving the detention order on the 5 of us. The 5 were Martin Carter, Rory Westmus, Bali Lachman Singh, Ajoda Singh, and me. And what was the crime? Suspicion that we could become a danger to public safety and order.
You gotta be kidding me.
And the governor detained. So it's in connection with that. Now, after the suspension, which took place somewhere about October 10th, 1953, next morning, these people were full in the village. Full in the village. You open your window and look outside, and they're clapping a rifle at you. As if you're going to jump through, you know, clapping.
Wow.
Rifle, clap, clap, clap. They were already spread on the ground throughout the country. So that is how those soldiers came into the village. And they searched several homes. They're searching, we used to, the people had the things that they're searching for the thing.
The thing, what thing?
They never found the thing. The thing.
Yes.
People, they're searching for the thing, the thing that caused them to dismiss the government.
Right.
They say we were turning the country into a communist country, so they're looking for the thing. They see some documents from the car. It was my car at the time. I was a minister, so I had a car. But there's nothing there, newspapers from abroad and that kind of thing, you know. So people used to have a good fun saying they're looking for the thing, and they would meet each other on the road. Have they found the thing? They had a good laugh.
Anything on you. Kwayana, I want to interject. These stories, what I like about them, it helps young people and us to see the connection to what has happened in the past and what is similarly happened today. It also helps us to see what kind of social capital our homegrown folks had to give for the freedoms we have in Guyana now. Young people, I want them to hear it and remember it, that this freedom they have to get up and say black man and coolie man and whatever came from sacrifices of black man and coolie man. And so I don't know how we're going to heal that divide, but these are stories that are very important for that. One more thing I wanted to give you some rest is that I heard my grandmother tell this story, that she came from church one Sunday, but I didn't know the Black Watch thing. and she said the white men, soldiers were coming. And Mary Jane was an Indian woman who lived next door with a Portuguese man named Mr. Marks. And Mary Jane came and said, neighbor Griffith, white man a come, white man a come. And so she ran in the house and she had a thought to take all the papers my auntie baby had, because apparently she was an activist. She had all these papers, I don't know what kind of papers.
Yes, she was a great activist. Your mother
yes,
and your
yes.
aunt.
She's a very conniving woman,
Both
but,
of them.
but she
Oh, they are historical people. I can tell you, I can talk about them for half a night, yes.
yeah, so anyway, so my grandmother got this presence of mind to take the papers, and Sunday they cooking the metaji and so, and there's not metaji soup. And she got the cornmeal soup on the fireside, and she took the papers and stuffed them in the fireside. No sooner she stuffed them in there, she heard the lady say, neighbor Griffith, they're at the gate. So my grandmother just grabbed the last set and stuffed them in her church purse, and the purse was on the table. So they knock at the door, ma'am, they want to come in. She said, come in. Older police soldier and a younger soldier, and they start to ransack the bedrooms, and they're looking for things. Like, as you said, the thing, they're looking for the thing. So
yes.
the young one saw the purse and picked up the purse. Well, the older one said, put that down. Don't you have manners? You're not supposed to go into a lady's purse. So my grandmother not a lady, because my grandmother say black people are a lady, a woman. But their manners is what saved them, because in the purse is the thing or whatever they're looking for. And so he put down the purse and then they left. And, as a child, I overheard that conversation, but I didn't have context for it until I got to talking with Jennifer and hearing about this 1953 and the soldiers in the village.
Amazing, yes.
Quite
yeah, look how things have to come to young people. Amazing, yeah.
Brother, you say Malcolm Sobers here. I was 6 years old when our house was searched and ransacked, and
that's
I thought it was thunder they were looking for, that paper thunder. I thought that there was
that's correct.
In the
that's
thunder.
correct.
And
your father was very active with us. Your father, they used to call him Sailor.
Yeah.
He belonged to a thing we had called the discussion circle. We used to meet at the village hall every Friday night to discuss the politics of the village and the country, And that was one of the organizations that moved the motion to establish this party for the working people. So, Sailor, your father, they right to search your father because he was very active.
And Mr. Brutus was Mr. Brutus was one of the men who was the plainclothes detective.
Mr. Brutus was this special branch representative.
Oh, okay.
Political police in the village. Yes.
Okay.
Never wore uniform.
Thank you.
Yes, he had to report on such things. Thank you.
Kwayana, somebody is saying something. They have a question. Somebody said, can we please hear something of the famous teachers and scholars? Oh, Tafawa said this. The famous teachers and scholars in the village who set high standards of educational achievement, and what motivated them, like you and Teacher Dasley and Hector Lee and so on.
Yeah, well, I can begin from before me. I had very good teachers. In fact, when I came to the village, third standard or some second standard or something like that, in Lusignan where we lived, most of the teachers used to come from Buxton. And the house where they used to take their midday meal was usually my grandmother's house, my grandparents' house, in which we lived, because my father had gone to Africa to work as a sugar boiler. Another sugar boiler there was Mr. Hudson, the present Hudson's father. He had become the chief pan boiler in Lusignan. And I was to write this in something, in a book I'm reviewing. So some of the teachers used to take their midday meal there. So when we came out I went to Roman school, and there was J.R. Hope was one of the teachers. Lily Jacobs, you'll find her name in the Buxton Friendship in Prenton Memory too. Teacher Lily. Teacher Lily was an icon. She and her sister were trained in Jamaica as Mico scholars, you know, teachers college and so on, you know, so high quality. The headmaster of Roman school was Stanley Albert Fearens. He was not a Buxtonian, came from Victoria or somewhere. Now, the name I was hearing when I came to R.R. Beard was also there. You might have heard the name R.R. Beard.
Oh, yes,
One of the finest that the country has produced, R.R. Beard and his wife Maud Beard. Now, I used to think that John P. McLennan of the Anglican school was the leading teacher, headmaster and everything, because John P. McLennan had a kind of stamp that he put on people. You could tell anybody that went to his school by their handwriting. Everybody writing alike. You know? My uncles, all of them went to John P. McLennan, all of them have a similar handwriting. But when I was writing Buxton Friendship in Print on Memory, one of the best interviews I had was from Teacher Dodsley.
Okay.
I went to Teacher Dodsley, his wife, Teacher Julie. Teacher Dodsley wasn't well at the time, but he gave me an interview. And when I was asking him about John P. McLennan, he shook his head. He said, if you're talking about education, that's not the person you should be focusing on. He was a, you know, kind of church man, a sort of patriarch, and a man with a lot of influence and that kind of thing. And so a little bit of misconduct as well, you see? A little bit of misconduct. He said a person that really did a lot for examinations and certificates was Mr. Fearens. Teacher Dodsley told me that. So I began to investigate Mr. Fearens and found it to be true. And I went to that school, and that's where I did school leaving and teacher's appointment next year. And he was one of our teachers. He spent a lot of time with his students. So that was, but R.R. Beard was famous throughout the country. F.H. Pollard was another one who was at the Congregational Church, Congregational School. And at that time, I never paid fees for lessons after school. You know, I never had to pay. Teacher George Truman, he taught, he was at this St. Anthony's school. George Truman, he had a peg leg. He lost a leg in an accident. But he was a serious teacher, the Truman's father, George Truman. And he used to promote me quite a lot because I was young, and he thought he thought I was answering his questions and that kind of thing. So there was Teacher Doon. Doon Prasad was Blackie's son. Blackie was a man that had a store on Company Road. Teacher Doon was very interesting because he introduced us to a lot of literature. Apparently he had a sideline in which he used to sell story books. And he used to bring the books to school and give us samples, you know, give us samples. And you begin to read and you get interested in literature. So,
Right. Kwayana?
I asked a
Somebody
question.
has a hand up. Go ahead. Yeah. Kwayana, somebody
Yes,
has a hand up.
Patrick French here.
yeah.
Patrick French here, Kwayana, your godson. And for those who know, Kwayana got a lot of godsons in Buxton.
Oh, yes.
A lot of what?
Godson.